Hello, welcome to Steel Division 2 and something you don't see every day. This is the last battle, part of the Fate of Finland DLC, and most of the time when content creators show these battles, it's against AI with at most co-op going on. But today we have a battle against Homer and awruK on the Finnish side, facing off against Onord and Stardekk on the Soviet side. And this is actually the second battle we played. The first one going in favor of the Finnish. And so we've changed up the strategies a little bit. And from the looks of it, Onord and his squire here from Hobotango's kingdom, Stardekk, coming in and trying to push on this side as they lost it very early on in the last game. So that means their deployment is quite a bit lighter over here and a fairly standard rushing deployment, I would say, for the Finnish. Now, being a historical battle, the incomes on this are very odd, and this entire battle is just weird start to finish, quite honestly. We've got smoke coming down from not only the howitzer, but also this little mortar here as, oh boy, just a massive flood of Yakari, Sissy, an AT gun. Noob mistake for getting a Sissy down there. Anti-tank rifles rushing forward, as we definitely didn't want to get bogged down over here. We thought we'd throw them for a loop. But my rush up here, also not going very well. The Latties, they do get forward, right up into the face of this Dushka. And because the Dushka is within 100 meters, the Latties' multiple Suomi SMGs actually get the better of it. And they end up taking out quite a few units, which I do find funny. But Onord and Stardekk have managed to hold on to this area so far, as the push down here completely goes in favor of the Finnish as well. The Avtavachikis getting warded off by the Suomi SMGs from the Latties. That's something you don't see every day. Avtas, of course, only having 100-meter range and the Suomis having 200-meter range. It ends up being quite humorous, as most of the units from the enemy side here, or the Soviet side here, going down. Smoke does block off the T-70 from doing it, as more units flood into the left side here. Lati does go down. Units very, very low. We've just got a bunch of Rastungs here, which are not exactly great infantry for holding the line. They do have a DP, and they are fairly cheap, but being disheartened infantry, they do tend to fall back fairly quickly. Trying to use some more smoke as the Razvedka pops up. We do have a long way to go, but there doesn't seem to be very many reinforcements coming in from the Soviet side just yet. Cheeky PTRS position almost just in place to snipe, to essentially cut off this road, and we'll see some nice transport snaps there as we desperately try to hold on not only to this reinforcement road, because this provides excellent flanking fire and makes it nigh impossible to come over here, but also we're just flooding this little town with units as the enemy starts advancing. Quite an interesting battle. We see the first vestiges of the Finnish Air Force coming out. Unfortunately, these planes are terrible, with quad Brownings on them. Nothing like the quad 20 mils that are on the Hurricanes. Is this 12 coming out? And that just completely shuts it down. These self-propelled AA pieces are also quite excellent. Still going, trying to get onto this T-70 Razvedka here. The Latties are actually doing quite a bit of suppression damage, considering. But now that we've brought up the M42 here in its little half-track, the Kospilets, a very neat little unit that you don't see too often here, a Finnish half-track, which was stolen from the Russians, I believe, in the Winter War. Whew. Getting blown up there, suppressed by the mortar fire of these RM-38s. Ooh, T-70 not quite going down yet, but with the La Toyota firing at it, does take it out. Those Latis are definitely a force to be reckoned with. Another Lati coming in, probably won't do too much, but we might see a couple pickups here, if it doesn't immediately die. Oh. We do get one before it's suppressed, and another T-38M2. After the DT buffs, these are actually not that bad units, which is quite funny. Vekotid's coming in, and also coming in these little more armored personnel carriers. These, whoa, with units on them. I've never quite seen them like that. But these are quite funny, as I was saying, as they've only got 10 millimeters on the front, which do protect them from rifle fire from the front, but not to the sides. Quite amusing in that regard. The Akari blob finally does get into the town, but the Finnish do have quite a bit of ground left to take, with ample opportunities for reinforcement here. And as the howitzer runs out of smoke. Sissy doing a good job providing covering fire of everything. We got another, I think this is actually the same M42 here, taking pot shots at that RM-38. And we just flood units into this little area here. awruK doing his best to hold on to our flanking fire. As aircraft come in for the Soviet side. The Soviet Air Force definitely being a little bit more aggressive, I would say. Or capable, rather said, in this historical scenario. Mortars coming in just to help suppress. And a bunch of Avtos coming in as this entire blob pretty much gets suppressed by a single T-34. I do believe eventually this gets smoked off, but Lati moving forward for now. We'll see if that can't get any cheeky transport kills, but quite honestly, after Machiki in a forest with Yakari, they do excel, but against the Molotov, and especially if there's a CCK, just immediately prepared to let loose. Look at those models. Quite a quick bottle drop, despite the CCK very quickly being suppressed by that T-34. Alsung's finally... One of them went down, the other one's finally getting suppressed. We've got dual Vekotins coming in, and a fledgling force of infantry as the first assault onto Yakunuvara Yara here. Ooh. Unfortunately, I'm not finished. Yakunvara here. And transport's going down to Rastungs. Once again, those Suovi SMGs, the specialty of the Finnish forces, despite these basically being the level of what Cherno used to be with the MG. What really sets them apart is that they do have two Suomi SMGs, and Suomi SMGs being the best in the game just absolutely tear things to shreds. The mortar smokes now. Coming down, more units rushing down. RM-38's probably going to open up here and completely suppress this infantry, but without infantry of their own to quite follow it up. Won't be too terribly useful, but will enable them to get into this little forest area. Still, their goal likely was to immediately capture this land spawn, as the Finnish were rushing for these land spawns, but doesn't appear to have paid off and ended up in a complete meat grinder. You would have to question if this is even worth still pushing for, as it seems kind of a sunk cost fallacy at a point, as there are, in fact, no objectives down there. Avto chasing down our little cosmolets here. That's quite funny. Sissy opening up. Absolutely amazing. A lot of people think, I would say, that the CC shouldn't suppress as much as it does, and the sniper rifle isn't even half of it. Because the Sampo has the 1,000 meter range on it, the only MG that has that 1,000 meter range, it actually means it gets quite accurate, quite close at shorter ranges, which means it does more damage. Lati getting a couple cheeky picks off here, actually two Latis in fact, as we clean up the last of the Avtos. And blind T-34s will not be able to stop us from pushing onto this hill by themselves. Having said that, the hill is still relatively secure for now, being held by two T-34s, 76s, and there is Vedka spawning for them. As, I believe at this stage of the map, I was actually running out of AT guns, and you can see me repositioning here one that I brought in early in deployment just to be able to move it. And that's one thing that I do find these Cosmolets are actually really good at. Unfortunately, in multiplayer, a lot of the Finnish decks don't quite get a lot of Cosmolets. I believe it's mostly found in Pensari, and even then, it's only found in a couple areas. I do know the mortars, I believe, can take them, but very niche unit. I would much prefer them if they could come in with the M42s here, which they might be able to. I'll have to take a look at that, but being a slow transport, not so useful in multiplayer, in, you know, ranked and stuff like that. A couple more Yakari. Pioneeri failing to get into the forest, not too useful down here. These 50mm German Kanatwerfer 36s here doing their best, but quite honestly, a complete delaying. This should be complete overkill for trying to take the objective, which is actually over here now. Smoke coming down. T-34 having to back off. Sissy killed off the recon over here. As the Blenheims, first Finnish Air Force planes, come in. And now these Blenheims, they do have an okay bomb load, but I would say that was rather lucky to kill. As the Sissy Kev chases down a T-34, and I can see how blind the T-34 really is. Barely managing to see it in time, but Onord, of course, on the ball with his micro. Division 1 player, very good at the game. And now, with some infantry, the Finnish are well on path to completely winning, but there is more infantry here flooding into this area, as we see Moskaya Pekota and Moskaya Razvedka making their way onto the hill, which I would say is a very crucial step to take, is securing this area so that you can then get up and close into a fight in the town here. Pekotin's doing a good job warding off the Soviet Air Force. There's actually a Ju-87 comes in. A strafing plane, also not very useful in the multiplayer meta, but definitely something that when you've got it in a historical situation like this, you should be able to make use of it. The last of the infantry pretty much getting pinned and suppressed here as T-26Es come in. This howitzer having done a lot of work so far, almost out of ammo, as the Strelki desperately flood the hill in an attempt to take back what was originally on the Soviet side of the battle. Avtos rushing in, Studebaker here to supply the mortars, them both surviving, of course, with the retreat micro. Onord once again on point. But as the Russians rush in Strelki, I've rushed in Pioneeri with frag HE shells, and heat shells are actually the perfect thing to prevent a push like this. Boston's also helping out with their SMG. Pioneeri a little too far forward to use their HE shells, should be getting out of there. Dushka truck's coming in. T-34-76 rushing its way up front. This is Sissy Kev. Does its best. Taking out another transport here. How many units have died just trying to approach this, let alone in the town as another one goes down. Suppressed Pioneery, the last one here, does surrender. And now, with 45 seconds left on the clock, or 43, they do manage to take Galusima, which does enable them to try one last push up here. And now, dual Cosmolets, thankfully, right? 10 millimeters of armor. You wouldn't think it would come in handy, especially since you barely need to flank it. Like, you just need to get a unit essentially over here to be able to kill them. But when they're fired from the front, surprisingly effective little half-tracks against infantry. We do manage to kill that T-34 Sissy, Hero Sissy, coming in, running in, and taking it out as the Pioneery gets its grenade down. And just with that, with only a couple seconds left on the clock, PTRS also getting lots of kills down there. The tag team of Onord and Stardekk do have to tap out with that. Very interesting match, I would say. Quite shows just how diverse, I would say, these historical situations can be, outside of just absolutely being flooded with infantry is in what you normally see happen in this kind of situation. When you've got a player on the other team, it feels a lot more dynamic than just fighting the AI. And that's particularly why I wanted to showcase this video. So I hope you enjoyed. I sure did, watching this back as well as playing it. And thank you very much, and goodbye.